Arguably the greatest rivalry in boxing, Puerto Rico versus Mexico. It's given us everything. Endless world championships, pound for pound glory, sold out arenas, stadiums, millions watching at home, and people still arguing about these fights and those behind them to this day. Let's look at the top 10 fights that define this long, brutal, competitive, and sometimes respectful rivalry between Puerto Rico and Mexico. One of the biggest fights in this rivalry's history came in 1992, where Julio Cesar Chavez stood across Héctor Macho Camacho. Having just turned 30, Chavez was in his prime, and the reigning WBC super lightweight champion of the world. He was 81-0 with 67 knockouts, and defending his title against Camacho, a former WBO super lightweight world champion, and also 30 years old. Camacho was 40-1 with 17 knockouts at the time, and these were two of the biggest stars in the sport. The Puerto Rico versus Mexico rivalry had already been established at this point, and the fight took place at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. As for the fight itself, it wasn't entirely close. Chavez continued his rise to stardom, winning a wide unanimous decision. As for Camacho, he got 2 more world title shots after, but lost to a couple of guys we're going to talk about later. Félix Trinidad won his first world title at just 20 years old. But one of the IBF welterweight champion's early major tests was against Luis Ramon Yori Boy Campas 15 months later. Trinidad entered the bout 23-0 with 19 knockouts, but Campas, at age 23, was 56-0 with 50 knockouts, and it was also his first title shot. The two fought at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and it was a great one. The first round saw the two trading away, coming forward, and having heavy exchanges without much feeling out. Campas dropped Trinidad in round 2 with a short left hook as just over a minute remained. Trinidad responded with a big round 3 and then subsequently put Campas away in round 4. Trinidad never dropped Yori Boy, but the fight was stopped due to damage he was drawing on Campas, which was an endless collection of flush left hooks and straight right hands to the head and body. We'll be talking about Trinidad again shortly. In 1982, Wilfredo Bazooka Gómez and Lupe Pintor fought as a featured bout on the Carnival of Champions card in the Louisiana Superdome. Gómez entered 37-1 with all wins by knockout and is the WBC Super Bantamweight and Ring Magazine champion. Pintor was 49-5-1 with 38 knockouts and the WBC Bantamweight champion. This was an artful slugfest for 14 rounds, stunning and rocking each other the whole way. A Gómez combination would back Pintor onto the ropes, and Pintor would counter, putting Bazooka in the same position. Gómez, with both of his eyes nearly shut, finally dropped Pintor in round 14 multiple times, ending the bout with a crushing left hook to the head. Officially, Gómez won via 14th round TKO. At the time of the fight's conclusion, scorecards read 126-120 and 125-121 in favor of Gómez, with a 124-123 tally for Pintor. This is one of 2 bouts featuring a Puerto Rican and a Mexican that won Ring Magazine Fight of the Year. In 2010, Giovani Segura put up his WBA light flyweight title against WBO and Ring Magazine champion Iván Calderón. Calderón, then 34-0 with 6 knockouts, had the home field advantage, defending his crown in Guaynabo, Puerto Rico against Segura, who was 24-1 with 20 knockouts. Both guys wasted no time, staggering each other in round 1 and carried a relentless pace for the entirety of the fight. Segura really asserted his dominance in round 5 with outstanding pressure fighting that left Calderón with no answers. Calderón responded amid a flurry by stunning Segura and coming alive in the last 90 seconds of round 6. Eventually, Segura's pressure dropped Calderón to a knee in round 8, and he won by knockout in Puerto Rico. In the Roberto Clemente Coliseum in 1978, one day before his 22nd birthday, Wilfredo Gómez was defending his WBC Super Bantamweight Championship for the 6th time since winning it in May of 1977. He carried a 21-0-1 record, all wins by knockout, against Carlos Zárate, who was 27 years old, 52-0 with 51 knockouts, and was a WBC champion coming up to 122 pounds. He also just so happened to be the '1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. The fight was electric. Gómez knocked Zárate down in round 4 with an inside left hook, crumbling him to his knees by the ropes 619 style. Gómez scored his second knockdown, but it came just after the bell. In round 5, another left hook caught Zárate cleanly, and the onslaught from Gómez marked the beginning of the end until the opposing corner literally threw in the towel. Gómez assumes Zarate's standing as the pound-for-pound #1 boxer in the world, which he held for 3 years until the fight we'll get to later. This was the first bout to feature a Puerto Rican and a Mexican to win Ring Magazine Fight of the Year. At Harambe-Thorne Stadium in San Juan, Puerto Rico, WBC lightweight champion Edwin Rosario, 24-0 with 21 knockouts, defended his title against José Luis Ramírez, who was 87-5 with 73 knockouts. This was a rematch of a bout they had a year and a half prior, in which Rosario outpointed Ramírez in a close but unanimous decision in Puerto Rico, becoming the WBC champion in the process. About 20 seconds into the fight, Rosario dropped Ramírez with a straight right hand. He maintained his pace and pressure for the rest of the round and picked up in the second, where he dropped Ramírez again within the first minute. Ramírez finally came alive in round 3, and in round 4, Ramírez caught Rosario with about 30 punches in the corner that stunned a standing Rosario so badly that he couldn't clinch and lean on the corner, nearly getting rocked behind the head before the ref stopped the fight. He was in no condition to continue. A 4th round TKO victory for Ramírez was the official decision. Now, this is probably the worst fight on this list in terms of action, but if we're talking about fights that define this rivalry, Félix Trinidad versus Oscar De La Hoya at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas absolutely makes the cut. In 1999, De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, 31-0, 25 knockouts, the WBC welterweight champion, and the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. Trinidad, 35-0, 30 knockouts, the IBF welterweight champion, and the #4 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. On paper, one of the biggest welterweight bouts of all time, the last super fight of the 20th century, and it broke the record for most pay-per-view buys for a non-heavyweight fight at 1.4 million on HBO, which stood until 2007. The fight itself, not great, not a ton of action, but it was still memorable. It felt like De La Hoya held a narrow lead after the first 8 rounds or so, and thought he had a wide enough edge that he was content with disengaging and using his movement down the stretch as Trinidad went on the chase, landing more punches in the process. Controversially, in Las Vegas, which was thought to be an advantage for De La Hoya, Trinidad walked away with a majority decision victory on the cards, 115-113, 115-114, and 114-114. It's still one of the most debated decisions in boxing history, but Trinidad won. One of the most heated boxing rivalries of the 21st century featured the much anticipated rematch between Miguel Cotto and Antonio Margarito in 2011. The first time they fought was in the summer of 2008, where Cotto, then 32-0 with 26 knockouts and the #6 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, was defending his WBA welterweight title against Margarito, then 36-5 with 26 knockouts. The bout took place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, with Cotto entering as a 2-1 betting favorite, and Margarito won with a surprisingly dominant 11th round TKO. However, before his title defense against Shane Mosley 6 months later, it was revealed that Margarito was caught with illegal hand wraps reportedly containing plaster of Paris, which would illegally add more power in his gloves. Mosley subsequently manhandled Margarito, who was suspended for a year afterwards. But in late 2011, over 3 years after their first battle, Cotto wanted and needed revenge. Cotto entered the fight, 36-2 with 29 knockouts, and the WBA Super World Champion at junior middleweight. Margarito, 38-7 with 27 knockouts, was a 3-time welterweight titleist looking to regain his championship medal. The fight itself, held at Madison Square Garden in Cotto's home away from home, played out like the first one in terms of pacing, but Margarito noticeably wasn't quite as strong as he had been years prior. Cotto, with one of the most complete performances of his career, captured possibly his most satisfying victory ever, shutting Margarito's right eye entirely and taking home a 9th round stoppage victory in a blowout. Over a year after defeating Oscar De La Hoya, Félix Trinidad moved up to 154 pounds, where he won the WBA Super Welterweight title in March of 2000. Later that year, a young 22-year-old phenom holding the IBF light middleweight crown named Fernando Vargas got on his radar. The two were set for a unification bout that December. Entering the contest, the 27-year-old Trinidad had a record of 38-0 with 31 knockouts, and Vargas stood at 20-0 with 18 knockouts. Now, on to the Mandalay Bay in Vegas. 20 seconds into the fight, a sweeping left hook dazed Vargas and helped score Trinidad's first knockdown of the bout. Vargas got on his feet quickly, and Trinidad dropped him back down seconds later with another clean left. Trinidad pressed on, but Vargas gathered himself with a strong round 3, later dropping Tito with a counter left hook in round 4. The war went on until round 12, where the damage Trinidad had been dealing finally caught up to the Mexican prodigy. 35 seconds into the round, Trinidad landed an artful straight right hand, setting up a pugnacious left hook that dropped Vargas for the third time in the fight. Trinidad immediately pounced on the risen Vargas seconds later, quickly putting him down again with a blazing left hook, bringing Vargas to his knees. Vargas tried to clinch for survival, but Trinidad landed a final straight right hand that stopped the bout with 1 minute and 27 seconds left to go in the final round. It was Trinidad by TKO, and it was a Fight of the Year candidate. Referred to as the Battle of the Little Giants, Wilfredo Gómez and Salvador Sánchez engaged in one of the most memorable bouts in boxing history at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. In 1981, Bazooka Gómez was the #1 pound-for-pound boxer in the world for 3 years running, the WBC junior featherweight champion moving up in weight, and an undefeated 32-0-1 with 32 knockouts. Sánchez was the reigning WBC featherweight champion at 41-1 with 30 knockouts. The fight was a mainstream attraction broadcasted throughout the United States and Latin American nations, and the action itself delivered. Sánchez nearly disposed of Gómez by knocking him down 40 seconds into round 1 and nearly dropped him again with a hellacious fury as Gómez tried getting off the ropes. Throughout the night, we saw fight-changing exchanges, with each man landing blows that may have knocked out 98% of other featherweights that night. At one point in round 7, with both of his eyes nearly shut, Gómez drilled Sánchez with multiple combinations that staggered the Mexican superstar. But in the end, Sánchez rallied in round 8 to batter the bazooka with a straight right hand, knocking Gómez into the ropes and finishing him off with a combination, winning by TKO. After the loss, Gómez lost his pound-for-pound #1 status, but remained a fixture among boxing's elite after dropping back to super bantamweight. He eventually won the WBC featherweight title in 1984. Sánchez successfully defended his title 3 more times, and while training for a rematch against Juan Laporte, he died in a car accident on August 12, 1982, almost 1 calendar year after the Battle of the Little Giants. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1991, and Gómez later joined him in 1995.